The desert sun was merciless, beating down on the outpost like it wanted to break every man and machine beneath it. Most people noticed the armored vehicles, the weapons, the soldiers moving with precision. Few noticed the quiet figures in the background of people like Alyssa Carter, a civilian technician contracted to repair communications gear. Her boots crunched on gravel as she carried a heavy toolkit across the dusty courtyard. She wasn't in uniform, just a faded polo with a company logo and cargo pants, but her shoulders sagged under the same weight of heat, exhaustion, and responsibility as everyone else there. Alyssa had learned long ago that she was invisible in places like this. No rank, no insignia, just the tech girl. That morning, she had been called to replace a fried comms panel inside the operations tent. Wires sparked, circuits overloaded up. It was a mess. For hours, she worked on her knees, sweat dripping down her neck, tools scattered around her like puzzle pieces. She worked silently, unnoticed, until the tent flap burst open. A squad of Navy SEALs stormed in. Dust, sweat, adrenaline and their presence filled the space like thunder. Among them was a lieutenant, tall and sharp-eyed, his uniform streaked with dirt. They had just returned from a mission, and Alyssa instantly knew from the silence and the air that it hadn't been an easy one. The lieutenant stopped short when he saw her crouched by the comms rack, arms deep in tangled wires. For a heartbeat, Alyssa expected the usual and annoyed remark, maybe a joke about the IT lady. She braced herself. Instead, something remarkable happened. The lieutenant removed his helmet, stepped forward, and with absolute steadiness, he saluted her. The entire tent froze. Soldiers who outranked her by 1,000 miles of regulation just stared. Alyssa blinked, not sure if she should laugh or look behind her to see who he was really addressing. "You kept the line open last night," the lieutenant said, his voice low but firm. "We heard you patching the circuit during the blackout. Without that signal, we wouldn't have made it back." Alyssa's throat tightened. She remembered the night before we had crouched in this same tent, hands trembling as she rerouted power, fighting panic when the system went down mid-transmission. She hadn't thought anyone noticed. She was just a tech girl, doing her job. But they had noticed. And now, in front of hardened warriors, a Navy SEAL lieutenant who owed her nothing was saluting a civilian technician. A ripple of respect moved through the tent. One by one, the men lowered their heads toward her, a silent acknowledgement that her unseen work had carried weight, that her hands had held their lives in the dark. Alyssa swallowed hard, blinking back tears. No medal, no rank, just gratitude. And in that moment, she realized something profound. Kindness, courage, and service don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear dusty cargo pants and tired smiles. When the lieutenant dropped his salute, he offered something even rarer than recognition: sincerity. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you may not wear the patch, but you're part of this team." Alyssa nodded, unable to speak. She finished repairing the system that day with a lighter heart. Not because she wanted glory, but because she finally understood that even the quietest contributions can echo in the lives of others. Long after the SEAL team departed, Alyssa carried that moment with her, a reminder that humanity is stitched together not by rank or uniform, but by respect, compassion, and the unseen ways we hold each other up. And every time she picked up her that night, long after the desert base quieted down, Alyssa sat alone outside the tent with her toolkit beside her. The sky stretched wide and endless, stars scattered like silver dust. For the first time in weeks, she let herself breathe. Her hands were still raw from handling wires, her fingernails smudged with grease, but all she could think about was the lieutenant's words, "You're part of this team." No one had ever said that to her before. For months, she had moved like a shadow through the outpost, setting up satellite dishes, repairing radios, replacing batteries, making sure voices traveled across impossible distances. She wasn't there for praise. She signed up because she believed communication saved lives. But often, she felt like nothing more than background noise, as invisible as the hum of the machines she repaired. But today changed that. She thought of her younger brother, Danny, who had joined the Marines and never come home. She remembered the folded flag on her mother's lap, the silence that settled over their home after his death. That was why she took this job, not for recognition, but because she couldn't bear the idea of someone else's brother, sister, or child lost because a signal went dead at the wrong time. And tonight, she realized that her work had already saved lives. The next morning, Alyssa returned to the comms tent to finish calibrating the system. As she worked, she noticed the same SEAL lieutenant lingering near the entrance. "Carter," he said, using her last name like she belonged there. "Yes, sir?" she answered, almost shyly. He stepped forward and placed something on the table beside her, a challenge coin, heavy and gleaming, stamped with the seal insignia. "For keeping us alive," he said simply. Her throat tightened again. She had seen soldiers trade challenge coins before, tokens of respect given only in moments that mattered. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined holding one. "Yeah, broken bar, I don't deserve this," she whispered. "You do," he said firmly. "You just don't hear it enough." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of unspoken gratitude filling the space. Then he nodded once and left, leaving Alyssa staring at the coin in her hand, tears welling in her eyes. Word traveled faster than she expected. That evening, when she went to the dining hall, soldiers she didn't even know gave her nods of respect. One young private, no older than 19, stopped her on the way out. "Ma'am," he said nervously, "I just wanted to say a broken bar thank you. My brother was on that team last night. If the comms had gone down, he might not be here. You don't know me, but I owe you." Alyssa smiled softly and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't owe me anything," she said. "Just look out for each other. That's all the thanks I need." The private blinked quickly, fighting emotion, then hurried off. That was when it struck her. Acts of service multiply. One act of dedication doesn't just touch one persona, it ripples outward, carrying hope where you never expected. Weeks later, when her contract ended and she prepared to fly home, Alyssa tucked the challenge coin into her pocket. As the transport plane lifted off the runway, she gazed down at the shrinking base, her heart full. She wasn't the soldier, she wasn't a commander, she wasn't even officially part of the ranks. But in a place where lives hung on fragile connections, she had been the steady link. And someone had seen her not just as the tech girl, but as a vital thread in the fabric of their survival. The salute, the coin, the words "you're part of this team," they weren't just gestures, they were proof that even the smallest trolls hold power when they are done with selflessness and care. Final message. Alyssa's story reminds us all that heroism doesn't always look like charging into battle. Sometimes, it looks like a woman with a battered toolkit, working in the shadows to keep voices connected across the night. And sometimes, the most powerful recognition isn't medals or headlines, but the simple salute given without hesitation, from one human being to another. After that, she walked a little taller,